Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirty Gaming and a new video on the channel going over the first part of the Champion Rain of Arrows run through. Now, if you watched my last video, I mentioned I was looking at potential alternatives for Raider for League Start if Raider Ascendancy gets changed, or I just feel like mixing things up a bit. So the first Ascendancy I decided to go on is Champion, purely for the reason that the main complaints I got about the build last league was that it was squishy, and I don't think it's necessarily squishy, but it is susceptible to one-shots. So Champion fixes that with Fortify, being able to stack armor and evasion, and just generally having better access to life and defenses on the tree. So the first part of the video is going to cover the leveling through the campaign, and then up to a 5-link mid-tier yellow maps, which is where I'm going to stop in SSF, but the build won't stop there. So let's talk about leveling. The first thing to mention is Champion did feel quite cumbersome because you don't have access to Onslaught and Tailwind and things like that, like you would get on Raider or even on Trickster, where you get 108% action speed. And it did in general feel quite cumbersome through the first 5 acts. Now, obviously, there is this node here, which gives you adrenaline when you reach half-life. And there are things you can do to make yourself go half-life to prot this. But when leveling, it's not really that feasible because you need sockets for gems to put in. And gem sockets are already at a premium when you're leveling. I don't want to have more pressure on me to maintain specific colors of sockets. So I didn't go for it. And it's certainly not something I'd recommend in a guide if I do bring one out. So we just went pretty standard. So we went Unstoppable Hero first, which gives absolutely nothing because we won't be fortified. But it's to get to Fortitude, which gives us 20 fortification. And then all these nodes come into play. So attack speed, armor and evasion, can't be stunned. Can't be stunned is massive, and it is something that I definitely noticed early on. Outside of that, the leveling is actually okay because the tree for this build actually has a lot of decent stuff nearby. So I haven't done any respecking at the moment. So the tree is here at the moment. I sort of pathed out as I leveled up. So you straight away get Art of the Gladiator, which means you can run any sort of armor and you don't get a movement speed penalty. And you get big attack speed and global accuracy. You get access to decent life nodes and armor evasion straight away. We also get projectile speed, projectile damage, and strength. And then it's not far to go to more bow nodes here with phasing on kill, which really helps. And then we can go down and get precise technique, far sight. We can go down and get long shot, point blank. This came much later on the leech nodes. And these nodes here are actually really handy as well. The main reason I took these while leveling is I was precise technique. I needed accuracy. Getting this mastery early on means you pretty much don't have to worry about your life overtaking your accuracy. It also gives elemental resistances, which is awesome. 18% elemental resistances, really handy in the campaign. And then the next section of the tree looks very much like the Raider. We can get movement speed here, which we are lacking because we don't really have, any onslaught, anything like that. So this comes with movement speed. So does this. So we do end up getting a little bit quicker, but it still doesn't feel amazing. But overall, it was much, much more safe. I never, ever felt like I was going to die. The campaign was deathless, but it did feel a lot slower. I would think I was about 30 to 40 minutes slower through the campaign, but I was recording videos as I was going along, saving those videos, tinkering with the tree to see how I wanted to go. So maybe it won't be that much longer because as long as you use your quicksilvers properly, you can get through the campaign zones fairly quickly. So going into maps on a 4-link felt absolutely fine. The one good thing about a build where you use a bow skill and you use Mirage Archer and you use ballistas is you will level without even trying. I was not particularly going slow through the campaign zones, and I was almost level 70 by the time I hit maps because between your ballistas, your Mirage Archer and you pretty much clear the whole screen without even trying to. So I was over the level of the zone pretty much all the time by around 1 level. And that actually felt quite good to get to maps and not have this deficit of levels that I had to make up. So that part I did like. And for whatever reason, I did level up more than I did with Raider. And I think that's maybe because the Raider is so quick that your ballistas turn off quicker once you get out of range. Your Mirage Archer gets out of range. Whereas Champion's a little bit slower. So you end up off-screening or killing a lot more mobs than maybe you would with a Raider. But overall, as a League Starter, yeah, worked really well. I have no complaints about it. It felt super, super safe. Damage is definitely not as it is on Raider and Deadeye for various reasons, but it was good enough. I never felt like I was struggling for damage in the campaign. I didn't really get a decent bow at all until Act 6, and then I got a really good bow that saw me through the rest of the acts. So going into maps, the build did feel quite slow, but that's my own fault. I didn't take my third ascendancy because I wasn't planning to go first to strike, last to fall, because I was maybe thinking about running the Tanu Ahi gloves. But it seemed a bit silly on an ascendancy where you get adrenaline for 20 seconds and you get loads of buffs. It seems silly not taking this node. So after about 10 maps, I decided to go and do the third lab, got the adrenaline node, and then to get that to proc, I had to run life tap support, corrupting fever, and second wind support. So the way adrenaline works is it will proc once you get to 50% life. You then recover, I think, 25% of your life, and then you get your adrenaline for 20 seconds. If you see here on corrupting fever, it costs 1,860 life, and I have 3,200. So if I had any less cost on this than 1,600, it won't proc. It will just take me down to like 55% life, and I'll basically just be killing myself. So if anyone knows another way to get around it other than the unique weapon swap, I'd be really interested, because this is an issue because it takes up sockets that I do want to have other things in there, which we'll go through in a moment. But as you can see, you proc it, you get your life recovery, and then you have adrenaline. So I have 0 life recovery on this build. So because of that, I just decided to go Vile Pact with instant leech and then obviously more leech. And it does help when you proc that adrenaline. I can obviously use my life flask anyway, and it gets my life back up. But having Vile Pact levels of leech means I go up even quicker. So if I'm fighting an enemy and I need to hit my corrupting fever to get my adrenaline, I don't even notice the life go down, because life flask combined with leech is literally straight back up again. Also, because the champion is tanky, I can literally stand and trade with anything in white and red maps. I've done it on Beyond bosses, lots of tanky rares, like Katava Touch, Solaris Touched, Soul Eater, and you can just stand there and trade because nothing's got the damage to kill you in that tier of maps. So I decided to clear the whole of the white maps where I had them drop. I think I've got a couple left that I need to run on the 4-link, just to make sure it would be comfortable if you did do it in SSF. So I'm missing the dunes and I'm missing marshes, but we've done the rest of the white maps. Then when I got a 5-link, I then decided to push a few yellow maps, and it felt okay. And the yellow maps I've done were pretty hideous there. Beyond that, extra elemental resistances, extra damage. So I would have liked to have been quicker through them. I still felt the build struggle, but I do have quite bad gear. But overall, I think if you were doing this in SSF, you can easily clear all of the white maps on a 4-link and bad gear. Pretty sure you could push all the yellow maps on a 5-link and then transition to crit. And then if you were lucky enough to get a 6-link, I think that would do you to clear all of your red maps. I think it might struggle a little bit in the higher tiers unless you get lucky with some of your items. In a trade environment, I think 40 to 50 chaos is going to get you your Atlas cleared. And that's what we're going to test next, which I'll come on to in a bit. So the one thing that annoyed me, because I haven't played a build that isn't ailment immune for quite a while, is chill. Chill is in every single map in abundance, and it just slows you down. Really annoying. You might have 30 seconds onto each map, and it just felt hideous. So I took the decision to craft reduced effect of chill on a ring, and then reduced effect of chill and shock on my gloves. So now if I do get chilled, it's only 25% of the effect. And then I'm just taking the Soul of Gurakan Pantheon to reduce shock even more. So shocks have very little effect on me, and chill has little effect as well. I can still get frozen, which is annoying. And Divine Vessels are like the rarest thing in the world. So it's God knows how long it will take me to be able to get the Cannot Be Frozen Pantheon. The other route you'd sometimes go is Rin in Syndicate, not on the board, booting people out, still not on the board. So again, it's not an option, but it is something you can aim for. And another thing that I noticed, and I never have before because I play builds that are ailment immune, there's a rare mod that's reflect ailments, and we do inflict ailments because we've got a 20% chance even though we don't crit. And yeah, there'll be a bunch of blue mobs that suddenly I'm chilled to max, I'm shocked, I'm frozen because they're reflecting the ailments that I'm putting on them. That also felt pretty bad. So getting Cannot Be Frozen is going to be quite important, because I really don't think you should be spending money to get ailment immune at the beginning of the league, because there's much better things that you can spend your currency on. So just very quickly to go back to these links, second wind support doesn't do anything. It's just the fact that it's a 200% mana multiplier, so it makes a big difference. If I take that out, my corrupting fever is only 930 life, so it doesn't get me down to the required level. So it doesn't do anything. It's just there because both of these gems are massive mana on life multipliers. So the other option for ailment immunity would have just to run Purity of Elements, but this build does lack a little bit for damage early on, so there's no way I'd be dropping Anger. And if I drop Grace, if we go and have a look here, My evasion rating is 20,000 and most of that is grace. If we drop it, it does go down. So I could run purity, but I'd rather run grace. But defense-wise, it feels pretty decent. With flasks up, we got 5.5k armor, 30k evasion with really, really bad gear. When you have adrenaline, you get 10% reduced physical damage taken and fortifies 20% reduced damage from hits. So overall, it feels like nothing can kill me, and I've only got 3,200 life. So I'm kind of stopping the SSF stage there because I don't feel there's much more I can learn from it. It would just be a case of me mindlessly farming, trying to get a 6-link and the right gear for crit. In terms of currency, I think I spent about 16C putting crafts on gear, which you obviously wouldn't do in trade because you could buy better items for cheaper. So I would think I've probably got around 40C. I've got a div card worth nearly a divine. So at this stage of the league, I'd then be able to go, right, I've got my white maps done. I'm going to go out, do a bit of shopping, get the stuff I need, basically to push red maps. So that's what I'm going to do next. This build's going to get migrated to trade. I am going to add a perseverance belt so that we can get onslaught. I'm going to get a bow that we could transition to crit with. I'm not going to go crazy, just something that would be cheap at league start. But we'll look to transition to crit. So we're going to stand a 5-link with a 4-link ballista. We're going to maybe get a quiver with some crit multi on it, get a bow with some crit chance, rejig the tree, get a diamond flask, and just generally improve our gear, which I will go through the gear now just so you can have a good laugh and a chuckle at the stuff I've been struggling through with. Starcon, just because it dropped and my helmet was something like 20 life and 20 resistances, it was absolute garbage. So this was better. Also gives a bit of attack speed and accuracy. And then if you wanted to go crit, gives a bit of crit chance as well. The gloves, yeah, as you can see, I've got really good gear. 36 life, no resistances, and then crafted reduced effective chill. The bow is not too bad. I crafted it with a screaming essence of wrath. Actually, it is bad. It's mediocre lightning damage, terrible cold damage, and some prod speed. The rings, again, this is absolute garbage. It has nothing good on it. Crafted reduced effective chill. This one's a little bit better. It's got some resistances, bit of strength, some mana, crafted non-channeling skills just to make it a bit more comfy. The amulet is, again, absolutely terrible. Some attributes, some cold damage, crafted life. The quiver is, yeah, terrible as well. It's got resistances, very low lightning damage to attacks, and crafted LE damage with attacks. The belt, junk. Again, lots of resistances, some resistances, no life, no strength, nothing good. And then the boots, again, absolutely terrible. Fire resistance, no life, crafted movement speed, and it rolled the lowest tier. So it was in an SSF environment, and you should never, ever have gear this bad in trade at this stage. You could buy improvements for all of these items for 1C. And then the last one is the 5-link that I linked myself after getting enough fusions. That's one more gripe. Your 5-link craft from your bench doesn't come into play until you do Crimson Temple, which is, I can't remember, tier 8 or tier 9 yellow map. Again, in SSF, that's pretty annoying. It might take you a while to get that map. And then you're at the kind of RNG gods to how you 5-link an item. But I think I've probably spent about 120 fusions and linked it, so it would have been cheaper than the bench. Anyway, this is probably my only half-decent item because it actually has some life on it. It does have an open prefix, but I don't have any crafts unlocked that I could use on it. And then at the moment, I'm running Sulphur Flask with attack speed, Jade Flask with evasion, Granite Flask. I wanted armor, but I went through nearly all my ults and settled on reduced effect curses. And then we got a Quicksilver with some movement speed, and then a non-instant Divine Life Flask, because again, I started to run out of currency. So that is kind of it for the character at the moment. Absolute trash gear, but it does hold up okay. So we might as well end on a map showcase, and then hopefully in a few days' time, I've got some more stuff to show you from the trade transition. So I have done the first Maven. That was on my 5-link. That was fine. Now I've got my ballistas up to 5, and I can place them really quick. They carry my single target DPS. So we'll run through the Delirium, activate Adrenaline. And as you can see, the ballistas kind of make short work of enemies, and they are definitely where your single target comes from. So even on what is really, really bad gear, build feels okay at this stage. All I look for on builds, if I'm league starting, is can it do all the white maps on a 4-link? Can it get to red maps on a 5-link? And then with optimization, can it do most of red map still on a 5-link? Reason being is 6 links are very, very expensive early on, and then they go down in price. So I would like my build to be able to not need a 6 link on day 1 or 2, and then I can pick them up when they're like a quarter of the price that they are on day 1. So I think we'll just go and find the boss. We've hit 4, so we'll stop there because that's a half decent chance for Deli Orbs, or we won't stop because it didn't want to. Get out that. So did we get a Deli Orb? We did not. So at the moment I'm picking up rares because my rares are, as you've seen, pretty terrible. I think I've left the campaign on better gear before than what I've got. I'm picking up every unique because they sell for ALP shards, and that's something I always tend to run out of in SSF. Obviously in trade you don't really have to because ALPs are super cheap, but I don't want to get stuck with the fact that I can't progress just because I don't have currency. It feels pretty awful. So what we'll do here is we'll just dump our ballistas, fire rain of arrows, stick some blasts on, and yeah, the damage is fine. And that adds some, I think that add enfeeble or something on the map. Oh no, so it didn't. Oh yeah, enfeeble and life is extra ear. So actually, it feels pretty good. It does take a few seconds to put your ballistas down. Obviously manually curse because I don't have the sockets to curse on hit. So yeah, felt okay. So the next video may come out this week. I'm away from Thursday to Monday. So it's most likely that's probably going to come out a bit later, give myself a chance to properly explore. Because I actually want to push the build up sort of red map level, early pinnacle boss level. And then I can really get an idea of how it fares against the Raider Rain of Arrows. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.